Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Watier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Watier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey Scott, how are you?
Fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's conversation. We are going to talk about a study out of the Journal of Nature Metabolism, and it was accepted in January of 2025, so a more recent study. And it's a short-term high-caloric diet has prolonged effects on brain insulin action in men. Don't worry, women out there listening, we're going to extrapolate this to a fasting lifestyle and how to adapt it to a fasting lifestyle. So don't worry, we're not going to leave you out, but there's some really cool insights in terms of this summer vacation mode, traveling, on, off. I went off the rails for a few days, and we're just going to dive into it and apply our nuance in our fasting lifestyle. So excited to dive into this with you today, Tommy. If you are new to the podcast, thanks for giving us a shot. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. And if you want to know more about Tommy and myself and why fasting and how fasting transformed our lives, head back to episode 0 and episode 1. Give them a listen. It'll give you some insight into why we do what we do week in and week out, why we have our resources, our challenges, our coaching, etc. Because we believe fasting can be such a powerful tool to lose weight, regain health, and just get off that dieting roller coaster once and for all. So welcome in. If you're an OG, a long-term listener, thank you so much for the continued support and your downloads and shares and likes and reviews. Just tell the podcast world that we're delivering value week in and week out. So we appreciate you. And thank you for being on this fasting lifestyle journey with us. So before we dive in, Tommy, I want to give a shout out to Grr187. Never done that on an episode before. This is the 5-star review, our favorite kind. If you'd be so inclined, we'd love you to leave us a review. Thankfully, we have thousands of the 5-star variety. And this one says, from Grr187, fasting motivation and guidance. I started my workout journey mid-February and started really diving into this podcast on my morning walks as part of the 75 Hard Challenge.
Awesome.
The amazing advice has really given me encouragement and strength over the months. Really understanding the deeper impacts of fasting has given me so much insight into my health and body.
Wow.
Preach it. In the last 4 months, I've lost over 53 pounds and have people telling me all the time that I look 10 to 15 years younger.
Whoa.
You're only 36 years old. My goodness.
Yeah.
My resting heart rate went from 72 to 52. That's over 10 million less heartbeats in just 1 year. Thank you.
That's a great way to think about it right there.
Right? Just incredible. So absolutely appreciate you taking the time and leaving the review, and so glad to have you on this journey with us. So Tommy, let's get into today's conversation. So a short-term high-caloric diet has prolonged effects on brain insulin. So we could really title this episode a whole bunch of different things, like why bouncing back after vacation is harder than you think.
Yeah.
Or detours and comebacks, summer vacations, overeating in your fasting journey.
Yeah.
Or maybe fasting for life, navigating setbacks and brain adaptation in the real world. No matter what we name it, right? Why don't we name our podcast episodes like that?
I like dieting detours and getting back on the highway. You know?
Ooh, look at you.
Because it really is, like, this is something that everyone's going to go through at some point, whether it's a day or two or a week or two. It could even be a month or two, or God forbid, a year or two, where you just feel like you were off. And then how do I get back on? How long should I expect it to take? And then what is that process like? Because sometimes it feels like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. But as we all know, sometimes like the gravity doesn't really work. Like the math doesn't math when I'm trying to pull myself up by my own bootstraps, or it takes a lot longer than I would hope that it would.
And this is the perfect conversation around this time of year too. We just had a family vacation, went away for a week, and having been, this fasting lifestyle for so long now, it was much easier for me on this vacation to compartmentalize and still prioritize my sleep and still be dad of 3 kids under 8, doing 500 laps in the not so lazy river
Yeah.
with the kids. Just being able to, enjoy the majority of my meals during the middle of the day. And when we went out to later dinners, because there were fireworks and all this other stuff, like I was able to just sit there and enjoy and not feel compelled to give in to the little angel and the devil on the shoulder being like, yeah, just have one. And we had a big meal for my wife's birthday right before we came home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had not done that any of the other vacation nights.
This was a dinner meal?
A dinner meal.
Okay.
We went out for her birthday and got steaks, and grandma and grandpa were with us. It was great. And she said to me, she's like, man, you ate more than I've seen you eat in a long time. And lo and behold, that next day was tough.
Yeah.
And, I didn't do that the other days because, to be honest, I didn't feel like being the, fluffy and bloated and full, rocking the bathing suit on the beach or the pool the next day. So this conversation really can apply not just to vacation or the summertime, but this dieting roller coaster, this mindset. Like you may be fasting and really on point Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, but then the wheels fall off on the weekend and then you find yourself restarting on Monday, right? And you're like, oh, you got to get the momentum back. And then by Wednesday, you start feeling good again. And then Friday, and the cycle just kind of repeats itself.
Yep.
And that just feeds into that dieting mentality. So we always talk about there's no magic like easy button or magic fairy dust, right? It's the consistency. So we want to give you an action step today that's going to allow you to get back on track and learn through the process. So we're going to talk more about the brain function and what actually happened in the study and this lag effect on your decision making in your reward centers in your brain, which is just mind-boggling to me. But in application, I'm thinking back, and you were thinking back, and the conversations I have with my wife about it is like, when I do go off the rails and eat out more frequently or more refined processed foods or restaurant foods, my wife will say this. She's like, man, it's really hard for me to get back on track. And she's super diligent, right? Like she's super on it. Like she's amazing. It's like one of her superpowers when it comes to macros and tracking and her CrossFit and her horseback riding and her marathon running and all the things that she loves to do in her Peloton. So she
goes through it too.
She goes through it too. So the real life application, as we started thinking back about, our coaching and our challenges and everything, we hear this so often. So it's not that we're just going to give you the underlying kind of effects of what the science showed and what the study showed, but we're going to give you the application on how to work yourself through it and out of it, which is the most important thing for us, which is beginning with the end in mind. So how do you change that subconscious behavior? How do you snap yourself out of it? So to your point earlier, Tommy, a weekend doesn't turn into a week, which turns into a month, which turns into a year, which turns into you restarting once school starts again, now that we're in the summer swing, right?
Right. Yeah, summertime is one of those times during the year where, it really highlights that seasonality component.
Yeah.
Sometimes waiting for that motivation to strike. Now, intuitively, we know after some success and through all of the cognitive behavioral research and the long-term weight loss management research, we know that we think it's going to start with some motivation, but really we have to start with some sort of action, even if it's a small one. And then we get a result based on that. And that's a motivating process that fuels further motivation. But in a typical diet roller coaster diet mentality, a lot of us are very conditioned to wait for that either seasonal or some sort of external urgency, like maybe it's a conversation with a doctor, maybe it's a vacation coming up or a wedding, a special occasion, something where we go, okay, I got this many days, this many weeks, I need to get it in gear, and now it's time for me to start. And so that's like an external spark that kind of comes along. And the trouble here is that when we're trying to, let's say it's reverse some sort of insulin resistance, maybe it's we're trying to take 20 pounds off or whatever the number might be, we're really in the middle of kind of a complex motivational, psychological, and physiological game with ourselves, where we're trying to keep ourselves motivated enough, get enough short-term wins that excite us so that we can keep making keep making progress forward, and that eventually leads to some longer-term effects, like the big, hairy, audacious weight loss goal, or the fitting into the bathing suit, or feeling like we're ready for that 5K, or whatever it is that's kind of coming up. So we really need to understand where the insulin resistance or sensitivity is. Just the fact that this study started looking at human effects of insulin resistance and sensitivity within the brain, the motivation centers, as well as taking short-term memories and consolidating them into long-term memories, which happens mostly in the hippocampus, and how insulin affects that, and how your high-caloric diet, even a short-term one, affects that, is really interesting, because we've been able to talk about the peripheral effects, the effects on the body with insulin sensitivity and resistance from the last probably decade of a whole lot of research that's come out on that. But the really nuanced effects happening within certain brain regions that then lead to short and long-term motivation or lack thereof is really interesting, because these are daily and even hourly factors that come into play when we're trying to stick to, comply with, a short-term diet or a long-term fasting lifestyle.
So let's unpack the study. So when we look at it, it's a short-term high-caloric diet has prolonged effects on brain insulin action in men. So when we're looking at it, it's a non-randomized controlled trial. It's 29 young men without known health issues, and they were instructed to increase their caloric intake by about 1,100 calories over their normal 2,600 calorie per day intake.
Okay.
And it was ultra-processed snack foods. So convenient, high-fat, high-carb, the high hedonic foods, the stuff you crave, right?
Yeah.
And what they were looking at was the altered brain's responsiveness to insulin, the decreased reward sensitivity, and in just 5 days, an increased concentration of fat in your liver. So 5 days, about 1,100 calories. So you're thinking, wow, 1,100 calories, that's a lot. Well, if we think about this weekend warrior mindset or this vacation mindset, getting an extra 1,000 calories in on a vacation, that's an extra meal plus a couple of drinks. That's an extra meal plus a dessert you normally don't have.
It could be 4 drinks. Like if it was just drinks, it could be like 4 drinks.
If you're doing mudslides by the pool or pina coladas, right?
It could be 2. Yeah.
Right, depending on how they're made, right? So we're looking at 70 grams of fat, 100 grams of carbs per those additional about 1,100 calories. That's how they got there. And the difference between that and the control group, they looked at the intervention, and 7 days after the groups, they went back to their normal dietary pattern.
Okay, like a
so
wash
they were
out.
looking. The primary outcome was brain insulin action, so neural activity in response to insulin administration. The secondary outcomes were liver fat content and performance on a reward learning task. So we're going to talk about the dopamine, serotonin reward centers.
Yeah,
and it was really interesting that after they call it the HCD intervention, the hypercaloric diet intervention, that increased caloric intake by those ultra-processed snacks, increased brain insulin action, increased liver fat content, increased punishment sensitivity. So more responsive to negative reinforcement, and decreased reward sensitivity. Less responsive to positive reinforcement. So this is the angel and the devil on your shoulder. I should be setting my fasting timer. I should be making better nutritional choices and better food choices in my eating windows, but I'm really not able to do it. The window just stays open, or you set your timer for 36 hours because you need to get back for 72 hours because you need to get back on track, and you find yourself, wait, I'm eating again. You didn't even make it through the first day.
Even if you did, then you fail to recognize the positivity, the reinforcement in that. It's like you tried to give yourself a pat on the back, and you're rejecting your own positive reinforcement of the deed, of the act that you actually completed right there.
So here's one of the really cool things that came out of it was, and we'll talk about this, is that the brain rapidly responds to short-term changes in diet even before the scale shows it, even before measurable weight gain occurs.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So a lot of the studies have been in animal studies, like you mentioned earlier. But this one is a less than a 1 week of high calorie diet reduced brain insulin sensitivity. So it had a direct effect on those signaling centers in your reward systems, right? So it's going to decrease the reward, it's going to decrease the memory, and it's also going to decrease your satiety and dampen all of those effects. So hunger, the memory of what you did and why you did it, and the reward, which is ultimately what the food's supposed to give you if you have an emotional relationship with food, that dopamine serotonin hit, all go down.
Yeah. So what you were trying to chase right there didn't even sink in, and if it did sink in at the time, it's really hard to remember it. So you're kind of like you're living more like in a fog like state. So you're not thinking as clearly, and this is during the time when you're trying to get back on track. So picture it, after a long holiday weekend or after a little getaway or something like that, during the summertime, and it's been 2, 3, 4 days, and it's like, oh, okay, well, hey, I'm just gonna have a little, vacation, whatever. Maybe I'm gonna indulge a little bit. Maybe we have a few special meals, or some drinks by the pool or whatever the case may be, and then all of a sudden, a few days later, you realize, okay, well, obviously I want to get back on track, and I wasn't anticipating that was going to be all that difficult to do. So why does sometimes it feel like it really is much more difficult to do than what you were expecting? Well, when your punishment and reward systems are flipped on their head, and then your short-term memories aren't becoming long-term memories very efficiently or very, very likely during that process, then even during those first few days, if you make a few steps in the right direction, it's like they didn't necessarily even happen. They're not sticking with you, and they're not motivating you to continue that process and to keep stringing those wins together, which is essentially what you really need to do during that time to fully deplete your glycogen stores again, get back into a state of nutritional ketosis, and start burning through the fat stores that you started to kind of inflate during those last few days of indulgence. Like you're trying to get back on track with your fasting lifestyle.
The crazy thing about this, which was surprising to me, was the afterburn, the lag effect.
Mm-hmm.
So it significantly increased liver fat, but even at the 1 week follow-up, it persisted beyond the trial period, those 5 days. And when we're thinking about that, it's like, all right, well, now you've started the machine moving in the wrong direction, and you're having trouble because your negative reward centers are turned on, and your positive reward centers, the positive decisions and the changes you're trying to make, are turned off or muted.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that there's this lag effect, even at the 1 week mark, speaking directly from the conclusions of the paper, they said it was no longer statistically significant, but it was still there.
It was still there, right? So we're talking like a half-life now, where it's taking much longer than anticipated to come back to baseline levels.
So when we look at this, the brain adaptation precedes the weight gain. So when you come back from a vacation, and we are by no means saying don't enjoy your vacation, don't have the meals with the family, don't have the drinks by the pool, don't have the dessert, right? But we're going to want to compartmentalize that and learn through the process of like how getting the repetitions going through this is how you actually grow through it. Yeah. And we'll talk about that arrival fallacy in a little bit, where so you have this plan going into the vacation, and then you decide in the moment to enjoy yourself and indulge, and then it's the slippery slope, because then you come back and the scale goes up 4, 6, 8 pounds, and it's not that you've gained fat, right? The liver fat, yes, the liver fat accumulation, if it's been higher fat, higher carbohydrate, alcohol, decisions during the vacation, yes, you'll see the increase in the fat in the liver, which is related to the short-term energy store. Your body's like, I have all this extra stuff. Where do I put it? Well, I can't shuttle it into the muscles. That's full. Let me go and deposit it into the liver. So you're going to have the water gain that comes with that, and the glycogen gain. So you haven't gained fat in the 1 week after the vacation, but the scale is going to show that it's gone up. So how do you get back on track when the physiology is stacked against you? Well, you need to know why, like that it's actually happening, and acknowledge it. And that's going to allow you to know going into it the feeling you can anticipate the feeling of everybody's done this, coming back from a weekend off the rails, or the feeling from the vacation, where you feel just like that guilt, shame, like, I did it again. I'm here again. I told myself I wasn't going to do it. Knowing what that feels like and envisioning what that feels like going into the vacation allows you to put some more boundaries on when are the meals and what are the things that you are going to enjoy, but what's your plan in between? So you don't go down that slippery slope, right?
Yeah, the in between is really important, because then you're able to think like, okay, what are the non-negotiables for this vacation? Maybe it's a few special dinners, but maybe it's not every single meal is necessarily a non-negotiable or an opportunity for me to just indulge, just to indulge. I've been on vacations before where there were some opportunities. We booked like a dinner on the beach where it was like a special thing, but at the same time, and maybe it was later than normal, and so that's not perfect. It's not ideal physiologically, but at the same time, I don't have to partake in the breakfast buffet that day if I know that I'm going to be having this later, more indulgent meal later on that day. And so that's the kind of day-to-day trade-off that might make a lot of sense, where I don't have to feel like I'm just saying yes to everything because I'm on vacation. And then I really have to feel like I got to say no to everything to get back on track. And so that's a very different kind of experience right there. And when you're understanding that you're setting the right expectation for yourself to come back and feel back on track after a multi-day kind of experience like this, or like a summertime getaway, or whatever the case may be, then I think that's really empowering, because knowing that those first few days are going to be more difficult, less motivating than normal, and then that allows you to give yourself a little bit of extra grace right then, where you go, I'm going to execute on the plan, but let me be realistic that I may not feel as on track as I'm behaving, that there's going to be a little bit of a lag time for those motivational centers to kind of come back into balance right there.
Yep.
Plus compounding that with the physiology, with this repleted glycogen stores in the liver, with some extra fat in the liver too, because guess what? That's going to take a few days to dissipate for me to kind of work through. And during that time, if I continue to stay off track, that's going to mean that those fat stores I'm going to be depositing some new fat stores at that point, because there's nowhere else for any of that fuel to go if I'm over consuming at that point when I'm back from that vacation, right?
Yep, absolutely. So let's just recap the key findings, and we'll go into connecting the science to like the real life setbacks, and then we'll talk about the practical strategies. So you got your liver fat that increased, even just after 5 days of increased caloric intake without weight gain. The brain insulin responsiveness was disrupted, so the brain's ability to respond to insulin was disrupted. And brain insulin normally helps reduce appetite and promote satiety, hunger, so your hunger signals, and the full feeling. The brain effects outlasted the air quotes binge or the vacation or the days off track, even after returning to a normal air quotes diet or fasting regimen or food choices. Even after that, even
maybe
after
2 to 3 times longer.
Even after a week, it hadn't completely normalized, right? The reward sensitivity was reduced and punishment sensitivity increased, right? So that's
give yourself lashings. You're more likely to give yourself more lashings, even when you're taking the right actions afterwards.
And that's just how the brain experiences motivation and learning from food rewards and setbacks. Then the white matter, the brain structure was altered, indicating a potential for longer lasting changes after an unhealthy eating period. So that's that slippery slope. And then interestingly enough, the peripheral insulin sensitivity, so the sensitivity in the blood and the tissue cell, didn't show immediate change. So the first impact happened in the brain and the liver. Okay, so why is it important? Well, the brain adapts quickly, right? So after you come back, know that you're not going to be able to get back into your previous state in an instant. That's powerful, because the body may lag behind your intentions.
And your actions too.
And your actions, of course. So let's link the science to the real life setback. So week of tour vacation overindulging can result in months of progress, right? So the study shows that the brain does in fact adapt to short bursts, and those have the lag effect. And then we talk about taking time to reset. So even though you come back, your brain and body's satiety and reward responses need some time to normalize. So give yourself some grace. These temporary frustrations are normal, right? So if you feel the increased cravings, decreased motivation, the mood swings, that you come back and you set your timer and you're ready to go, there's a biological reason. It's not just that you suck and your willpower is depleted.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the fasting is the ultimate reset. That promotes insulin sensitivity, both in the brain and in the body.
Mhm.
So resuming fasting and healthy food choices is going to be the quickest way to recalibrate. So what are the practical strategies, Tommy? Normalize setbacks, right?
Yeah.
So these slip-ups is normal biology, not moral failure.
Wow. That's powerful.
Plan for a recovery. So expect that it might take you some time to get back on track, to get back in rhythm. And that consistency, we talk about this all the time, right? Consistency is more important than perfection.
Agreed. 1,000%. I like to use a rule of thumb, which would be as long as I felt off track, let me give myself that much time to feel back on track. Not necessarily for the scale to be exactly where it was or for everything to be clicking the exact way, but for me to be able to go, yeah, I'm still kind of recovering from XYZ. I'm still feeling like I'm working towards getting back to where I was, like where everything is feeling more intuitive and kind of more automatic and more lifestyle wise rather than a deliberate phase or mode of getting back on track. So if you were gone away kind of for 7 days, give yourself at least a week to feel back on track. We've talked to a lot of people who are taking some extended cruises during the summertime, 21, even 30 days.
Wow.
Okay, don't expect to feel like you're back on track in 3 or 5 days after that. Give yourself that 3 weeks or that 4 weeks if that was the mode for that period of time. It might take a little bit longer, but probably by that period, you're going to feel much more confident. And you're probably not going to be labeling yourself, kind of in the same way because you've had a lot of reps and some bumps and bruises along the way, probably. But you've probably been able to gain some momentum and feel like, okay, cool. I'm feeling more like myself again, which I think is really important. Matching up with your self identity, kind of coming back to where you were before you went away.
So what I just heard was don't step on the scale after the vacation. Don't step on the scale after the weekend. Give it a couple of days.
Yeah.
Insulate yourself from yourself.
Don't give yourself more lashings, right? When you're primed to give yourself more lashings, like what we just saw.
Exactly. So craving more after the air quotes binge or super calorically dense or indulgent meals or alcohol or celebrations or vacations, whatever it is, it's not just psychological. Your brain is literally adjusting to the calorie overload, right? But you can take it back because you have fasting in your tool belt, right? So don't panic. Be compassionate. You don't have to immediately do a 72-hour fast.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
For reparations, what happened to what happened. Expect the brain's appetite reward centers to take some time to recalibrate. And I really like this, Tommy, and we talked about this in prepping for today's conversation, is use the science and the knowledge that we just shared to fight the guilt, shame, self-criticism cycle.
Yep.
Your body's adapting. It's way smarter than us. So your body's adapting. It's not failing you. It's just adapting to the environment and the decisions you made. Right? So every season, every vacation, every Hallmark calendar, every holiday, every 4th of July, whatever it is, this is part of your metabolic and health journey. Right? So with your knowledge and your patience, I mean, you can reclaim it quickly after any fasting detour, after any going off the rails. So in terms of practicality, ideally, you would be able to get to a 24 to 36-hour fast as quickly as possible. Some of you are going, well, that sounds really difficult.
Sure.
But the reason we're saying this, or even if you just got to the 22-hour mark, right, where you're just going to do like an OMAD type scenario, do that. Do whatever you need to do. Insulate yourself, go for multiple walks, shut your phone off, hide from your wife and kids, whatever it is. take a sick day so you don't get the donuts in your face at work,
Right.
right? Or leave when the donuts typically show up, or close your door, right? You're in a meeting, right? You're in don't bother me mode.
D&D. Yeah.
D&D it, right?
Hmm.
Whatever you need to do to get to that. And why do we say that, Tommy? Well, because of BDNF, right?
Yeah, brain-derived neurotrophic factor is one of the superpowers in the brain, and the regulation and the increased sensitivity of BDNF has been shown in many studies, many fasting studies in humans, in rats, across different time frames, where you have like a recalibration and optimization of BDNF that happens, and it starts to really accelerate and peak as far as sensitivity and concentration around that 24, 36 hour mark, and can continue to increase past that too. But like a lot of us, especially if you've done longer fasts in the past, like some more extended fast, multi-day fast, it can feel like that's what I should do to get back on track, because I know how I'm going to feel at that point. So it can feel tempting to, like you said, kind of set yourself up for some reparations in order, almost like a punishment, or that's what I'm going to need to feel back on track after some sort of indulgence or vacation. And really what we need, like you said, 24 to 36 hours, that's a great sweet spot. Do a couple of those in a row. That will be much more beneficial mindset wise and physiologically speaking than trying to swing for a 2 or a 3 day fast, especially with the likelihood of not necessarily hitting that goal. Because when you're coming from being off track or feeling off track and physiologically being different for the last few days, and then now you're trying to do this multi-day fast, it has a low probability of success for anybody, right?
Yep. And
so
that BDNF is cool because that's what gives you like that euphoric feeling when you finally do break through and you wake up the next morning and you're like, I feel good again.
like
Here
a weight.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's physiologically based too. So get to that 24 to 36 hour mark because you're going to reset insulin sensitivity. You're going to reset the hunger cues. You're going to increase the BDNF factor. And, really when we're talking about this big picture, there's this, we kind of zoom into the moment, right? To the decision in the moment or the weekend off the rails or the vacation or whatever it is. But when we zoom back out, I want to talk about this arrival fallacy for a minute.
Okay.
Right. So I was I was on social media at some point in the last week or so, and I saw one of the world's best golfers in the world. His name's Scotty Scheffler. And he had just won a couple of majors. He's like the closest thing to Tiger Woods and his golf accomplishments. Like one of the best golfers in the world, number world rated, been there for a long time. If he's playing in the tournament, he's probably going to win it or come in the top 3.
Oh, wow.
And he was talking about in one of his interviews, post one of his wins, how does it feel winning? And he was like, well, winning major championships isn't really fulfilling. And there's a trap in thinking that your accomplishment of some goal will fulfill you, right?
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
But what will actually fulfill you is who you become in the process of going for that goal.
Yeah.
I know I've experienced this, right? It's like I'll be happy when scenario.
Yep.
So it's fulfilling, and he said it's fulfilling in the sense of the accomplishment, but it's not fulfilling in the sense of like the deepest places of your heart, your core values, and who you are. So when we're looking at these individual little scenarios that happen, we need to zoom out and be like, all right, do we have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset when it comes to this? And this talks about the negative feedback loop in the study, is knowing why it's happening and then learning through the process. So you need repetitions. You can't just learn it. You have to go take an action and do it.
Agreed.
Because then when you do reach your goal, it's not just a number on the scale. It's that transformation of you, the individual, of the person that now knows that you just don't do what you used to do anymore. You don't have the bad relationship with food anymore. You're not an emotional eater. You don't use food to cope with stress. You have a fasting lifestyle that's brought you to a place that you can be confident in any situation, no matter if it's a vacation or a date night or deciding what you're going to eat for breakfast the next day when your fasting window closes, right? And your nutrition eating opportunity opens. So we just want to zoom out big picture. And yes, we gave some practical things, get to that 24 to 36 hour fasting method, but don't fall into the trap when it comes to weight loss that when you arrive at the number of the scale or the scale rewards you after a vacation, you're like, oh, it only went up a pound. That doesn't bring true happiness. That's not going to motivate you to keep going either.
Yeah, that's a little flash in the pan right there. It goes away very, very quickly. And so what I heard there, I love the not falling into the I'll be happy when, because diet roller coaster mentality, I spent decades basically pushing off happiness or satisfaction until I reached some number. Typically, I was chasing it. It was kind of getting away from me further and further year after year.
Oh, if I get to this number before vacation, I'm going to have a great vacation.
I'm going to have and otherwise I'm going to start the lashing. I'm going to start the guilt shame cycle. So you're already trying
Screw
to
it, I didn't make it.
Right. And then it's like, okay, well, now you resolved yourself in a kind of different way. So the opposite of that is having that self-awareness that you are changing and growing through the process. And that's the really, really like important and fulfilling part of the whole thing. But when you're doing that, what that requires is noticing some of the small things so that you can appreciate those as kind of micro wins rather than waiting for the big win at the end, the big finish line win. And so what it takes, coming full circle here, what it takes to do that is actually your brain firing in the way that it was meant to, sensitive to insulin, and making those short-term memory to long-term memory consolidations so that you remember those lessons from the setbacks, and so that you remember those wins whenever you took an action and accomplished something small, even like doing the hard thing, even when it was a little tough, like coming back from vacation or making those compartmentalization decisions while you're away or while you're on vacation. So doing those is going to require your brain and neurophysiology working correctly. So the one other thing that I wanted to highlight is the contrast here, which is what we hear a lot is, if I'm fasting, why do my food choices really matter? If I'm fasting, can't I just kind of eat whatever I want because I have this built-in caloric deficit, things are clicking, things are working? But I'm going to make the strong argument that
in the short term, yeah, it might work if you've got a bunch of weight to lose and you just started fasting, for sure.
For sure. But we can see from a study like this and a lot of experience that it's just not optimal. So making more intentional food decisions, not all the time, not perfection, but the more you make those intentional food decisions, the better the more likelihood that you have to be remembering some of the small wins and taking away some of the small little lessons, like week to week, day to day, week to week. And that's how you become a better faster, a better, more healthy version of yourself. And like, that's where all of the real wins lie. So focusing on that, I think that kind of hits the I want power. That hits the my why, which when we tap into that, it's so much more motivating than just, seeing the scale tick down slightly, right?
Yeah, 100%. So when we zoom out, right? So we need the practical. We need the what do we do when this happens, right? So a little bit of an intentionality goes a long way. Yeah. And it's not that end goal, that end be all number on the scale. It's enjoy the process. Reflect on the good things, and learn from the not so good, right? So that I'm really glad you brought up the memory thing again, because we didn't really hit that a lot from the research, but that memory center was altered as well. Mm-hmm. So the only way to rewire that is to take an action. So if you're looking for more support, you need some more guidance, you need a fasting schedule, head to the show notes, click the link for the Blueprint to Fasting for Fat Loss. It's a 20-page PDF, gives you the who, what, when, where, and why on how to stay consistent with fasting, a little bit of science behind it, but then it gives you some fasting schedules on how to ramp back up. If you're looking for support, you head to the show notes, click the Facebook link to join the Facebook community where we talk we talk fasting 24/7 and break the first 2 rules of fasting. And if you want an accelerated experience, join the upcoming challenge. We're going to go through 7 days of live, plus a bonus day 9 where we do a customized, personalized group coaching call with us in a Zoom room, face-to-face. But if you're looking for more support, we've got different options for you. Head to the website, grab a resource. But Tommy, ultimately, in the full summer swing in the Watier household, and what we've seen with our conversations inside of coaching, I just really think that the action steps from today are going to be really helpful for so many folks.
Agreed.
And if you're looking for more support, head to the show notes, click a link. Tommy, I appreciate the conversation as always, man, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.